Ici en Europe, au niveau de la nouvelle génération de cinéastes américains. Je veux parler de Lucas, de Spielberg, de Scorsese et de quelques autres. Alors, il y a deux solutions. Soit ils regardent vers le fantastique, Star Wars, etc., etc. Soit ils regardent vers le musical, soit... Mais on a l'impression qu'ils ne regardent plus la réalité américaine avec leur caméra. Comment expliquez-vous cela?
Well, I think in the case of Scorsese, that's not quite accurate, because Mean Streets...
Taxi Driver?
Taxi, you know, he's very down to earth. In fact, I think that it was Scorsese that elevated underground films to popular underground films. He made that transition, and he allowed, and all of these other directors that you just mentioned will tell you, they may not tell you, but I mean, they told me the same thing. He opened a door for everybody. I always feel that, and it seems to have proven itself, that every 10 years there is, every decade, there is a country that's in, you know? And especially in film. And now in this decade, it's come back to America. All of the young, there's these young guys who are just dying to express themselves. And it's kind of fun that it's back in Hollywood again, where it all started.
Au niveau du cinéma américain aussi, Liza, il y a un engagement politique au niveau de certains acteurs ou actrices. Exemple, Jane Fonda, Coming Home, film que vous connaissez. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez du militantisme des acteurs et des actrices? Est-ce que vous pensez qu'un acteur ou une actrice doit avoir un rôle finalement politique à travers les films qu'il fait?
Well, I think that it's important to know the facts. I admire the enthusiasm of people who try to help anybody. But I also think that it's wrong to use the power that the public has given you. And let's face it, it is the public. They've given you that. They've said, we like you, so you know, that's it. To use that power to influence them in something that is not your real business. And to me, I don't know, it's a...
Vous vivez, Liza, dans votre temps. Vous connaissez les problèmes de votre temps.
Yes, but I feel that what you're asking me is, do I do anything? Yes, I do things, but I don't publicize it because it's not the business I'm in.
Vous pensez qu'une actrice doit apporter au public, avant tout, le rêve, l'évasion, la joie?
Do you think an actress, first of all, should bring to the public joy and distraction and
Dream.
And dreams?
Only.
I think it's your job, if you're good, to make people stop thinking about themselves. Whether it's joy or sadness or anything, or excitement, whatever you do, it's your job to disturb people.
Je connais, moi, l'un de vos rêves, un rêve que vous avez. Je crois que vous avez un rêve, c'est de jouer au théâtre Shakespeare.
Oui.
Par exemple, La Mégère apprivoisée.
Taming of the Shrew.
Yes. Yes, but that's not really the one that I want to do. I want to do Joan of Arc. You know. Yeah, I'd love to do Shakespeare. I love all of that thing. I like to expand. You know, for instance, I just did a new ballet with Martha Graham at the Metropolitan Opera, and it worked. I mean, it worked. It was wonderful. It worked, and Nureyev and Berezhnikov and Jerry Robbins, people I admire, said that I had made that step, that in my field, I'd crossed over into their field successfully. And I was very happy about it. Anytime you can grow, that's the most exciting thing in the world.
Vous donnez une impression de fragilité. Oui. En réalité, vous êtes très forte et vous avez beaucoup de caractère.
Oui.
Est-ce que cette force, ce caractère, ne sont pas des éléments qui empêchent Liza Minnelli, femme, d'être heureuse? Vous avez compris ma question?
Oui. Happiness consists of two things to me. One is the rush of suddenly feeling happy. Two is contentment. Now, in order to feel both of those things, you have to know the other side of happiness. I've met that other side. I've dealt with it. I've lived with it. And I appreciate the happiness that I get out of my life.
Liza, est-ce que vous vous souvenez d'une date?
D'une date? Qu'est-ce que c'est d'une
date?
Yeah.
Le 8 novembre 1964.
Do you remember the 8th of November 1964?
I'm rotten on dates. No, of course not. What? Tell me, what happened? What did I do? What was it?
Le 8 novembre 1964, à Londres, au Palladium.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yes. Yes.
Est-ce que c'était la première fois que vous chantiez avec votre mère?
Oui. C'est extraordinaire pour moi. It was a wonderful experience. It was wonderful. The whole thing was wonderful. You know, the press have always tried to make it sound like my mother and I were, you know, like what most mothers and daughters go through, which is rivalry. Maybe I can put it a simpler way. It takes, usually, in Europe it's different, but in America with all of this women's lib and this whole thing, usually a mother and a daughter go through 3 or 4 years of, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Well, for God's sake, don't. You know, it's that thing of a woman, when the mother suddenly realizes that the girl is a woman, and she views her as another woman. It's a lot to take for a mother. I went through 4 years and 2 hours on that stage with my mother. We got it all out of the way. It was like I went through that whole terrible period that people go through for years. In 2 hours I went through with my mother. And it ended up beautifully. And I had more fun, and she loved it, and she was... She touched me so much because she was such a mother. She was such a beautiful mama, and so caring about all of us, my sister, my brother, and I. And I'm her first child. She's always said, you know, that you're my first, you know, whatever. And whatever rivalry we ever had only demonstrated itself in our own minds on that stage. Nobody in the world saw it, but the two of us went through it. So every time that the press has ever said we were rivals, or like before you said your mother didn't want you to do carnival and this, that, and the other, it was a different thing. It's a different thing. She had magic, and she realized that she had infused that magic in me. She had said, look at that sunset. My God, look at that moon. Jesus, look what a beautiful sky that is. And I'd understood that. And she was a little surprised that I'd understood about the, you know, the vibrancy of life. And it all came out, and at the end, she ended up being terribly proud and happy.
Métier que votre mère.
Oui.
Est-ce que parfois, vous n'avez pas l'angoisse, vous n'avez pas peur du métier terrible que vous faites?
No, I have... See, I grew up with my mother constantly teaching me about her fears. She once said to me, watch me. And when I get upset, when I get depressed, when I get disillusioned, learn from it. You know, I'm the best example of what I don't want you to do. And I always respected that. And the press and various people have tried to make me sound like I am frivolous or even promiscuous. And I'm not. I was instilled with probably the highest moral values that I've ever heard of by my family, and I've stuck to them. But I learned another thing from my mother. One time, I was on the school bus. I was going to school, and I passed a newspaper stand, and I looked out the window, and it said, Judy Garland runs naked through her house trying to kill herself. And all of the children on the school bus started to laugh at me, you know. And I knew that wasn't true because I'd been with her. And I went home and I was crying because the children had been so mean. And I said, Mama, it's not true. You have to tell them. You have to tell them it's not true so that they can write it differently in the paper, so that they won't misunderstand. And she said, no. Let them build a legend. I'll live by my own morals.
Je vous remercie, Liza, et nous espérons tous vous retrouver bientôt dans un nouveau film.
I will. Thank you so much.
Merci.
Thank you.